Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to potentially one of the most important days in Philadelphia 76ers franchise history. That is right, is the NBA Draft Lottery Day. Oh, and by the way, there is still some NBA playoff being played as well. Myself, Sean Barnard, and Sam Oshtry of The Score are here live on the Fox Sports The Gambler airwaves, breaking down everything that went down in the NBA world this weekend. We have a lot to get into. The Oklahoma City Thunder with a grown-up victory to tie things up against the Denver Nuggets yesterday. The Cleveland Cavaliers in some trouble now in that 3-1 hole at the hands of the Indiana Pacers, and the writing seems to be on the wall for Giannis Antetokounmpo eventually forcing himself or being traded from the Milwaukee Bucks there. Before we dive into it all, my man Sam, how we doing this morning?
I'm great. It's lottery day.
Yes, sir.
Lottery day hasn't been exciting in a long time, but it is this year when the stakes are Cooper Flag at number one. Great weekend of hoops. Let's get into it.
100% there. And I guess we'll hit on the lottery real quick. We'll dive deeper into this and do a little live reveal at the end of this. We're going to do our own simulation here. But I wanted to frame it to you this way. This kind of was bouncing around my head before we started, and I figured I'd catch you off guard with it. If you're Cooper Flag right now, who are you rooting for that number one pick to go to?
Oh, it's tough. So he's a Northeast guy, obviously
Correct.
from Maine.
Maine.
Played.
Yep.
He's a Northeast guy. My mind's on the Sixers right now, but legitimately, the Sixers are a phenomenal location for him because of they're in win now mode already. So he's not going to take the load on. I think a lot of stars sometimes come in and they're the options. They go to one of the worst teams in the league. So they are the number one option and everything runs through them. I don't think that's necessarily good. I think in some ways your development can move further along because of that. But I don't think that's necessarily good all the time for stars. If he's playing alongside a Tyrese Maxey, a Jared McCain, maybe Joel Embiid if he's there. But now you also, the Sixers are going to look at him and say, this guy is our future. We're looking into the post-Embiid era if they somehow land Cooper Flag alongside a Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, a pretty electric offensive backcourt. So, not to just say it's the Sixers, but I don't want to go to a Jazz or the Washington Wizards necessarily, who I think are on the right track and have some good young pieces. I would like to go to a win now franchise if I'm Cooper Flag, where I can get immediate playoff experience. And not everything has to rely on me every single night. If I have an off night, I have teammates who can lift me up. That is, I think, the best development track for any young player, but definitely a prospect like Cooper Flag. So it's a team like the Sixers, or even I'll throw the Spurs in there now too, who are both in win now mode.
Yeah, 100% there. And I do feel like there's some of this that is being invaded by my Sixers lenses a little bit, but I'm in agreement here. And with Cooper Flag specifically, one of the things that almost surprised me a little bit as far as what he was at the level of college is he was not this let me do it all, take on the world, be that kind of grade A number one guy. He was very much a team guy, a winning player that really impressed me. And I do think the best pathway for him is to start off where he isn't looked at, to have to do anything. And obviously, he really kicked into gear in conference play, and his final 17 game stretch is one of the more impressive things that I've seen from a college athlete there. So I'm all in on Cooper Flag. I do ultimately, obviously, a 10.5% chance. I do hope it is Philadelphia. Outside of that, I think San Antonio is kind of a long shot. I mean, him and Wembanyama would be absolutely absurd together. But I think a lot of the top teams, I mean, the Wizards, the Jazz, the Hornets, the Pelicans would be interesting, but they're just such a theoretical team. Who knows what Zion Williamson is looking like or how often he's on the floor moving forward. So, yeah, I do think the Sixers have a pretty strong case for why they would be the best landing spot.
And let me say, too, I think Cooper Flag playing the 4 when he gets in the league immediately will be the best thing for him. His defensive versatility, forget the offensive. We know what he is offensively. His defensive versatility is off the charts. I mean, he can legitimately switch 1 through 5, guard on the perimeter. He's a really smart help defender. He's a rim protector. So I think him playing the 4 alongside a big 5 in a Joel Embiid or Victor Wembanyama, those two guys, that'll help fast track his development too. As opposed to if he goes to a Hornets, I mean, they got Mark Williams and some other bigs there, but teams like that aren't as good and aren't as complete necessarily. He's going to have to play more of the 5. And I'd rather see him play the 4 when he gets into the league.
Yeah, agreed there. And to fully set the table from the Sixers' perspective, they have a 63.9% chance of retaining the pick there. It has to fall between selections 1 and 6 for them to keep it. They have a 10.5% chance at that 1 pick to land Cooper Flag, a 10.5% chance at the 2nd pick, a 10.6% chance at the 3rd pick, 10.5% at the 4th pick, just 2.2% at the 5th pick, and 19.6% at the 6th pick there. So we're going to do a little live simulation to close things down.
Real quick. quick, forget like the basketball fit. The funniest outcome, just if you were a fan of the NBA, the funniest outcome is going the Sixers by 4. I mean, it'll make the rest of the league furious. Like, they're the season.
Oh, yeah.
They won the summer. They won the summer, which sometimes is more important than the winter. They won the summer, and they had the most disastrous season based on expectations I think they've had in decades. And now the reward for that would be Cooper Flag and a long-term future and a runway in the post-Embiid era. That people would be so sick around the league if the Sixers were rewarded for that. I think you have to root for it, even if you're not a Sixers guy, because it's that funny.
And we've been so tortured by the basketball gods that I don't want to hear it, man. I've seen Markelle Fultz get thoracic outlet syndrome. I've seen Andrew Bynum not be able to suit up for a single game for this team. I've seen Michael Carter-Williams be a rookie of the year and then forget how to play basketball or be an NBA quality player moving forward. We've seen Ben Simmons refuse to shoot the ball. We've been through it all here.
What about Zaire Smith? What about
Zaire Smith? The peanut allergy.
What's his weight at right now?
Yeah. I was a Zaire Smith believer. So my point being here, we've been tortured, Sixers fans. We deserve this one a little bit. Basketball gods, throw us a bone. 10.5% chance. Let's see it happen. So we are going to wrap up with kind of a live simulation of that to really build the excitement there. But there was some actual basketball being played this weekend as well. So 2 games that did take place yesterday. Do want to hit a little bit on the Thunder and Nuggets game yesterday. I thought that was a grown-up, impressive win by that Oklahoma City Thunder team. And particularly when watching it, it felt like it was slipping away to me. That I thought we were seeing just as kind of played out in Game 3, that it was that championship caliber ability of this Nuggets team to make the proper decisions down the stretch. The offense executing at a high level. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander still kind of struggling a little bit. But the bottom line is that team gutted it out, found a way to tie up that series 2-2. And obviously it is now a best of 3 to see who advances. So what was your takeaways from that afternoon game yesterday?
Biggest takeaway for me is Jokic is exhausted. I've never seen him like this in his entire career. I think the Nuggets, or excuse me, the Thunder deserve credit for what they're throwing at him defensively. Just the size of Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein. And in game 1, when he went off for 42 points and 22 rebounds, it was mostly Chet was the primary defender. They've kind of flipped that, where it's been mostly Isaiah and Chet's been the roamer. And of course, Chet guards him when Isaiah's out. But Jalen Williams is also getting a shift, who kind of fell out of this team's rotation, but they're just throwing all this size they can at Jokic, and he's bothered, both because of the size factor, which we saw against the Wolves last year. Like, that is the recipe for Jokic, is when they guarded Jokic with Karl-Anthony Towns and put Rudy Gobert as the floater, and just so much size they were throwing at him, and it really, he struggled because of it. Like, that size is just hard to combat. And we're seeing that again with the Thunder. Like, that is the recipe for stopping Jokic. But the other thing is he's exhausted because he just came off of a 7-game series against the Clippers, where he had to bang with Zubac every single game. Another really tough defender, one of the best guys who can guard Jokic in the entire league. Now he plays, last night or yesterday was their 7th game in 13 days.
Wow. And
they don't have a single a break of more than 1 day until a potential game 7.
Wow.
So Jokic looked exhausted. You can tell he's 1 for 4 from the free throw line in the 4th quarter. Jokic does not miss free throws, especially big free throws. 1 for 7 from the field in the 4th quarter. Overall this series, he's shooting 39% from the field, 21% from 3 after shooting 41% from 3 during the regular season. And here's the biggest part to me that you can tell how fatigued he is. Almost 6 turnovers a game. Like, Jokic is not a guy that turns the ball over. He's not sloppy with the ball. And you're just seeing an exhausted Jokic. And there's not a lot of rest you can see for him down the line. And the series is probably going 7, if we're being honest. But there's not a lot of rest I can see for him. He's not going to regain energy. I mean, he's Jokic. He can do magical things. He's still the best player in the league. Don't get me wrong. And I want to talk about Shai too, because he's been struggling. But Jokic, just watching him, he is exhausted. This is the worst I've seen him play in a long time.
Yeah, and to your point about turnovers, they have been sloppy ones too, like very uncharacteristic, like cross-court passes that he never really tries, and it's been a little bit surprising. He's also been more expressive than I think I've ever seen him in his career, like with throwing the palms up, arguing, yelling at guys in a way that
he's always an arguer. That guy's always an arguer. He's close to Luka level.
Yeah, okay. I mean, he is an arguer. I wouldn't go as far as like Luka level. Luka's on his own playing field with that one there, but I do hear you there. But some of like the jumping up and down and like he just is wearing his heart in his sleeves. I kind of like that he's dropping this like I don't care about basketball act to an extent, because I always thought that was sort of a lame look. Like, dude, you're one of the best basketball players in the world. You're in the NBA. You should care about this, the bottom line there. And I think he does at his core, which is the right outlook there. But I've been kind of I mean, he's borderline coaching this team at the same time of doing all this as a player. It's still shocking to me the way that whole Michael Malone thing went down. But at the same time, this is a 2-2 series. They are 2 wins away from going to the Western Conference Finals, and I'm not ruling them out. So you mentioned Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I won't lie. Sitting there yesterday, my concern level from a Thunder perspective sort of increased. That Shai has not been able to sort of shake this. We're seeing a little bit of the bad habits of the foul baiting. I mean, in game 3, he kind of tried to, get to the free throw line to try and win a game, which that's where things, the bright lights of the playoffs really expose that there. I didn't like the version of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that we had yesterday and really haven't all season. Can the Thunder still win this series if that guy doesn't return to being the MVP candidate that he's supposed to be?
Yeah, I think they can because of the lack of depth the Nuggets have, and they're just exhausted. And you can see that with Jokic. And you don't really know what you're going to get. Even though Jamal Murray Jokic 2-man game looks like during stretches like it was when they won the championship a couple years ago, that's emerged as one of the best 2-man games in the league again. But from Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon's been phenomenal, but Russell Westbrook was awful last night. You didn't know what version of him is going to show up. And they're only playing 6 guys. Yeah. Like Peyton Watson's really barely playing. Like none of those guys, but not beyond Russell Westbrook, are playing any significant minutes off the bench. So I think they still can overcome that if Shai gets help. But I agree with you. It's been pretty shocking to see Shai struggle like this, especially in crunch time. And look, the Nuggets deserve credit. I mean, they're morphing into this zone defense that essentially is like a box and one on Shai. And they're throwing so many doubles at him and just taking away his driving lanes. And throughout the year, when Shai was doubled, he was usually pretty good at, number one, getting the ball out of his hands quick, but also still getting to his spots in the mid-range, despite being doubled. Like he's so good at operating mid-range and getting to his spots. He's not doing that as efficiently or effectively in these playoffs. And the Nuggets doubles are really timely in their zone that they've morphed into. It's just cutting off all driving lanes for Shai, and he's struggling to get to his spots. He was awful in game 3 in crunch time. He was 0 for 7 in crunch time, clutch time, whatever you want to call it, which is in a game, the final 5 minutes, if a game is within 5 points. So obviously all these games have been in crunch time. He was 0 for 7 in 3, 0 for 7 in game 3 from the field. He had 9 points in the fourth quarter, but I still thought he struggled. It wasn't the crunch time offense from the Thunder that got done. It was crunch time defense. Right. So in the fourth quarter, Shai made a layup, and it was 88-81 with 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Shai, the next possession down, Shai misses a step back 3. Thunder got the offensive board. Shai missed another bad step back 3, which wasn't even a good shot. It was a contested step back. Nuggets cut it to 5 in the next possession. Then Shai has the ball. He dribbles the ball off his leg. It's a turnover. What happens, though? The Thunder get a stop on the other end. Then the next possession down, Shai missed a difficult midi. It was not the greatest shot again. The shot he can make for sure. I want the ball in his hands, no doubt. But he missed a difficult midi. And then the Thunder get a stop defensively. So it was the Thunder's defense that has been so good against the Nuggets, who really are good at late game execution. But the Thunder's defense, their clutch defense was really good yesterday. And that's what's going to get it done. Because I am worried about Shai throughout this entire series, but also in the clutch.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, they held the Nuggets to 8 points in the first quarter yesterday. You just don't see that in the year 2025. And when speaking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, to me, the defining trait of him as a basketball player is he's so good at just playing at his own pace. And it didn't feel like that way, certainly yesterday and really all series. It feels bothered that he's not getting to his spots, or he feels a little sped up in a way that I've never really seen him be, to be honest, certainly not this season. And I mean, yesterday finishing, when you look at the stats, he's still statistically finished with 25 points, had 6 assists, 6 rebounds, but he shot 8 from 19 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3, got to the free throw line 12 times. So 9 of those 25 points came at the stripe there. And the shot selection to me is concerning. Both those threes I thought were atrocious decisions there. And I think coaching wise, I understand you kind of want to live and die with your stars. That's why you're their stars. But I thought in game 3 especially, it was just such a dumb decision to me not to go to Jalen Williams more, who was playing the best playoff game of his career.
Jalen Williams was awesome that game, and I've seen a lot of people saying that. I'm still going with Shai. He's your best player. He's the reason you're even in this position, the reason you won. You had one of the best net ratings in NBA history. Shai is your guy. I get it. It's different philosophies. I'm always of the guy. If you have a superstar, that guy should always have the ball late in his hand, even if you have another player who's playing out of his mind.
Yeah, I'm a hot hand guy. I like to feel the vibes. When you feel the energy of a game, somebody's got it. I like riding that there. But nonetheless, it is a 2-2 series. Any strong opinion on the way this series swings in the final three
Yeah,
games?
so I had it Thunder in 7 before the series, and I'm sticking to that.
Like it.
It's really just the Thunder's bench. Like they had 10 threes yesterday. 8 of them were by their bench, and they were all by 3 players: Alex Caruso, Kaysen Wallace, and Aaron Wiggins, who all hit huge threes. The only 2 threes that the starters hit were Lou Dort. And guess what? Lou Dort was benched in that fourth quarter because he
Rightfully
was
so.
2 for 10 from 3. What'd you say?
I said rightfully so.
100% because he couldn't make a shot. They weren't even guarding him. They were leaving him open. They were giving him the Ben Simmons treatment, or
Yeah.
like even sometimes the Russell Westbrook treatment, which is what the Thunder were doing back at them. But Lou Dort couldn't make a shot, and he really struggled this entire series. So yeah, he's so good defensively, but you have Kaysen Wallace and Alex Caruso and other guys who can lift the load for him defensively, that it was a smart idea to bench him. And I'm glad that they did, because he just couldn't hit a shot. He was bringing that offense down. But the point is that the Thunder are so deep and they can rely on their bench. And look, you're going to have nights where Jalen Williams has duds, but then he also can go for 30 plus like he did in game 3, even in a loss. The Nuggets, on the other hand, Aaron Gordon is playing some of the best basketball of his career right
Yeah.
now. I think Jamal Murray in that Jokic 2-man game looks really good. It's the exhaustion factor, not just Jokic, this entire team, because they're only playing 6 guys. You never know what you're going to get from Russell Westbrook. And Michael Porter Jr. has become one of the biggest swing guys in the NBA. He can have nights when he goes 24, 8 for 13 shooting, and other nights where he has 3 points, 1 for 10 shooting. He is like, you have no idea which version of Michael Porter Jr. is showing up every single night, and they need the best version to beat the Thunder, who are just so deep and so many different guys to throw at you. And again, it's the Thunder's defense against the Nuggets' tired offense with Jokic that I think the Thunder is still gonna win this in 7.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I'm still locking in the Thunder in 7 as well. And by the way, I do give Porter Jr. some credit for fighting through that shoulder injury. It's definitely like very significant that he's playing through. And I mean, he was awesome in game 3, so I'm not going to be too hard on him overall. But it has been great hoops so far. I do think the next 3 games will live up to that as well. Let's transition into the night slate now, which we don't have to probably hit on as significantly here. A blowout victory by the Indiana Pacers to take a commanding 3-1 lead. Donovan Mitchell did not step foot on the floor in the second half. That same ankle injury that he missed the final 4 games of the regular season seems to have popped up there. Ultimately, the game was basically a blowout from the first couple minutes. That they jumped out to a 20-point lead in the first quarter and just poured it on, closing the half on a 17-0 run by the Pacers there, and that really kind of closed the book on that game. So any takeaways that you have from last night, and is this series completely over for the Cavaliers?
It is if Donovan Mitchell's out, that's
Yeah.
for sure. And I don't expect him to play next game. And I think that could be the closeout game for the Pacers. I don't want to make excuse for the Cavs because they were fully healthy to start that game yesterday, or as healthy as they'll get this time of year. And they just got blitzed. I mean, they looked like a team that had no interest in playing basketball. All their starters, everyone who came in off the bench, they were down 20 plus late in that second quarter. And then the Pacers explode on a 17-0 run to close the quarter. And they were down 41 at halftime. How is it even possible? I think if you, me, and 3 other random dudes on the street put together a squad, we wouldn't be down by 40 plus in 24 minutes of basketball. They had no interest of being on the court yesterday, and they were unprepared. They just lacked energy, intensity, really nothing to do with basketball. They just did not look like they cared or wanted to play basketball at all. And then that's what happened. That's what happens when you go down by 40. I don't think the Cavs have any chance of coming back, but I will say this series all turned on game 2 when the Cavs were up 7 with like a minute to go, and they just couldn't grab a rebound off of 2 key free throw misses. They just couldn't rebound the ball off of free throws. And from there, after game 2, obviously, of course, Cavs win game 3 to cut it to 2-1. That was the first game they were back fully healthy. But last night was just a disaster. You still have Darius Garland dealing with an injury. He has a different shoe that he's wearing to address his toe, but he doesn't look the same. Donovan Mitchell has been awesome this series, but he's had to carry such a huge load. I mean, he was averaging over 40 points a game in the series coming into last night. And so it's not shocking that he got hurt because of the load that he had to carry coming into the series or in this series. So without Darius Garland for those first couple games, and then Evan Mobley and DeAndre Hunter out for game 2, like the Cavs do have legitimate excuses, but at the same time, you can't lay that dud that you did yesterday, because now, of course, Donovan Mitchell is going to be out, and this is this Pacers series, and they're going to be back in the conference finals, which they've benefited from absurd luck that we haven't seen in NBA history from in back-to-back postseasons, maybe ever, because of the absurd luck that they've benefited from. It's rarefied air to make consecutive conference finals appearances. And most teams that do it, they also make consecutive finals appearances. This team is not in the class of some of those teams that have made consecutive conference finals, but because of absurd luck, and to their credit, they're 41-16 in the last 57 games. Wow. So this team does deserve credit, like Tyrese Halliburton, the entire cast does deserve credit, but they've also benefited from absurd luck.
Yeah, you got to beat who's in front of you. So I have a hard time holding it against them there. You're absolutely right about the series completely swung in game 2 when the Cavaliers held a 20-point lead in that game, had a clear pathway to closing things out, and just did not execute down the stretch. Not only just not rebounding free throws, Tyrese Halliburton getting his own free throw to ultimately produce that dagger there. Just stuff that cannot happen. And I don't think that there is any coming back from this series now with all the injury concerns. I do think Garland's like real deal injured still. He definitely does not look the same. And I was watching one of his post-game interviews, kind of him hinting at that, being like, you guys don't know what I'm going through to even get on the court right now. And it's just like, yeah, I don't see a world where these guys are able to scrap out 3 consecutive wins against this Pacers team, who are nasty, who do fight, man, and I think deserve credit for that. I do got to get this off my chest about Benedict Mathurin, man. I'm a Benedict Mathurin man.
You were passionate yesterday. You texted me. You were passionate.
I think I'm the most mad in the world. So to explain a little bit my setup here, because I do think this impacts how you viewed it. I was watching the Phillies game on the top TV, had NBA on the bottom. So my sound was on the Phillies game. So I could not hear the broadcast speaking about the Mathurin thing. I don't know if that impacted it, but I have watched.
Schwarber, 2 dingers.
Yeah, Schwarber, 2 dingers. Shout out to him. Zach Wheeler, stud on the mound. Awesome Phillies game. But nonetheless, Mathurin in the bottom screen, and I've watched the Zapruder film. I've watched it slowed down, zoomed in, anything. It's absolutely absurd that he got kicked out of that game yesterday. And my biggest issue with Benedict Mathurin getting ejected is still the lack of consistency across refereeing in the NBA. If Draymond Green did that exact play, I'm not even sure there's a foul called on him. But Ben Mathurin is kicked out of the game. And DeAndre Hunter, walking right over, 2-hand shoving him, which I get it. These two have been going at it all series. This has been every game that there's been some sort of altercation before him. But for that to not be at least punished the same way is crazy to me. That should have been double text and move on. That's not a closed fist punch. It's just not. He shouldn't have done it. I'm not saying that Benedict Mathurin should have done that to DeAndre Hunter, but I think it is absurd that they kicked him out of the game for that. And I do think that, like, there's a lot of players, they do that exact same action, and it is play on, check ball, and not a big deal whatsoever. What
I texted you is that if Draymond did that, it's probably not
nothing.
Like,
yeah, nothing. Seriously, I can hear the announcers. I'm not sure there's intent there if there's Draymond Green doing that. Like, the way the league will bend over backwards to give this additional leash to Draymond Green that clearly, as indicated last night, other guys don't get is crazy. So pick how this stuff has to be called and stick to it. Inconsistent refereeing is worse than bad refereeing. I think we've had a lot of inconsistent refereeing in this playoffs.
We've had absurd quotes. Just some of the best. This is why this league is so great, because it produces the best quotes and just the most absurd quotes from some of these guys. Maybe my favorite quote of all time, at least in the last 5 years, definitely top 10, was Draymond saying that there's an agenda out them to portray him as an angry, and he said angry black man. There is no agenda, Draymond Green. You were portrayed as an angry man because you are an angry man on the court, and that has nothing to do with what you are outside the parameters of an NBA basketball court. But in those parameters, you are really angry. And guess what? It's part of what drives you. It's part of what makes you great. It's part of what makes you the emotional leader on this Warriors team that's won 4 championships with you. But you are an angry dude. You come at people. It's not like do we have to rehash every single incident? The Rudy Gobert incidents, the punching in the nuts. And I mean, the compilations after he made those comments were just crazy, of like 4-minute long videos of all the insane incidents of him acting like an absolute nut job. It's not an agenda. Like, anyone who has 2 eyes, it's not this media portrayal, this narrative that came out of thin air. Anyone who has 2 eyes watching basketball can see that you are a nut job on the court. And I don't even mean that derogatorily. Like, it's a good thing. Like, him being a nut is good for the team. But go ahead.
I do think Draymond forgets that these games are televised sometimes. Yeah. We're all able to watch what exactly happens, that you're just flailing arms into people and kicking guys for no reason, stomping on Domantas Sabonis. We've seen a million altercations. He's got 5 flagrant fouls and 4 technicals already in this playoffs here. That's absurd stuff. And I do think him discovering that you can get a flagrant and technical in the same game without getting kicked out. it's a game changer. That's a dangerous game for the rest of the league right there.
And then Brian Windhorst came out and said, yeah, everyone around the league complains about how he gets a different whistle. And it's true.
He's right.
It's 100% true. Like most people that in that Rocket series, in that game where he got the flagrant and the technical, that's 2 flagrants for literally anybody else.
Yes.
He gets a longer leash because of who he is and the reputation he's built. So I'm not saying he deserves or doesn't deserve that. But yeah, everything that people say about you, Draymond, is because of your actions. Correct. But to go back to the Benedict Mathurin ejection, I didn't feel as strongly about it as you, but I did think that the retaliation effort also should have been punished. So DeAndre Hunter, that was a hard push. You don't see that a lot. DeAndre Hunter also should have been ejected from that game. But look, I mean, that happens. I think it was because of below the belt, and it was a bad spot where Benedict Mathurin hit him, which could have impacted that. But in general, I don't necessarily have that much of a problem with it.
Yeah, I think it's an all or nothing thing to me. If they had thrown out both, I don't think I would have cared that strongly. If they kept both in the game, that would have been my preferred route. But I think that should have been double technicals and move on. I mean, Ben Mather knew exactly what he's doing. He is going into that archetype of the Pat Beverleys, the Dylan Brooks, the Draymond Greens, and he's a good basketball player too. Don't get me wrong. I've been a Benedict Mathurin fan since Arizona. He's a guy I would want on my team. Absolutely. He scored 21 points in game 3, and I thought had a really significant impact on that game as well. I think that brings something a team a little bit of the edge here. And shout out to this Pacers team, by the way. On top of all the other stuff you mentioned, they do have a unique way to make the team that they're playing in a 7-game series just absolutely despise them over the course of the series.
100%. And I think it's partly because of the injury thing that I'm talking about, where it's like all these teams are playing them. Like, yeah, this is a good team. Like, they're definitely hard to guard. Their defense has elevated over the last few months. Like, their clutch time performances, Tyrese Halliburton, he steps up. Like, this is a really good, deep basketball team, plays with fast pace, moves the ball, leads the NBA in passes. We get all that. But if you're an opposing team and you're like, all right, we've never been healthy playing you throughout these series. Like, you have to be pissed off. Like, this team is showboating. There are a lot of guys who are front runners on that group on that team, I think. And nobody and they haven't played teams that are healthy. So to me, if I'm on another team, I'm like, all right, this is kind of getting annoying at the fact that nobody's seen this team healthy and this team showboating, running around like they've won something huge when they're just escaping playoff series against teams that are injured. But they do deserve credit. Like, you're right. Beat who's in front of you. This is a good team. This isn't an elite team. And usually if you make back-to-back conference finals, you're an elite team. And that usually means a top 6 to 8 team in the NBA. And they just aren't that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's unique to them is they're more of like a pure basketball team than we generally see in the NBA. That like so much of the NBA as a whole is driven by star power, having the best player on the floor, and that's just not Indiana. That like they run legitimate offense. They have all this off-ball cutting. They generate the looks as a team, not just one player specifically, which I don't think we've seen in a team this successful at doing that in a while now. So ultimately, we'll see. I do think they take care of business, and then they'll have their hand at this next matchup that we're going to talk about here. So the Boston Celtics and New York Knicks, I would say probably, at least from my view, the one that I've had the most vested interest in this opening round. So the Knicks still holding a 2-1 series lead. It will be game 4 tonight. The Celtics are 6.5-point favorites, minus 258 on the money line. Over under sitting at 208. Sam Oshtry, how are you feeling about tonight's matchup?
I think it's a must win for the Knicks. I really do. And I know I thought the Celtics were going to come back to MSG or come back to Boston 2-2 because Celtics have been awesome on the road. I mean, they have a better net rating on the road than they do at home this season. They have 5 more road wins than they do home wins this season. So it really wasn't a concern to me when they lost 2 at home because they've been great on the road and they've been particularly great at MSG this season. So I always thought the series was coming back 2-2. I just think it's a must win for the Knicks. Like, the Celtics have led 95% of the time this series, and they've built up 20-point leads in every single game. But despite them trailing 2-1, it's pretty clear who the better team is, and I don't think that's ever been disputed. What I've seen the Celtics clean up throughout this series is just their shot chart and their shot diet, and it's become way healthier. And it starts with they shot 62% of their shots in game 1 were threes. That came down to 43% in game 2. And then game 3, it was 48%. So that's really what when the Celtics are at their best, when they're most like roughly fewer than half of the shots are threes. And it's not just the threes and the volume of threes, it's how they're generating threes.
Yeah.
They did a really bad job of getting in the lane, attacking mismatches, attacking switches, and putting pressure on the rim, which obviously collapses defense, forces drive and kick, puts the defense in rotation. And that's how they generate good threes. In game one, it was awful. Like, they was just all just like isolation. Jason Tatum was getting the switches he wants onto Jalen Brunson, on Karl-Anthony Towns, onto Mitchell Robinson. And he just couldn't, he wasn't doing a good job producing and attacking off those switches. I think the Celtics have done better of that. And of course, they shot 25% from three in games 1 and 2. Like, that wasn't going to continue. They only shot less than 30% from three in back-to-back games once this entire regular season. So it was a statistical anomaly, their three-point shooting, regardless of how open the looks were. And to me, it wasn't really just about Tatum or Jaylen Brown. It was a lot about the other guys. Like, Derek White is probably their best spot-up shooter. And he was awful from three in games 1 and game 2, shooting 29% from three coming into game 3. Then game 3 comes around, and he obviously shoots 50% from three, makes 3 threes. So it's guys like that who I thought there was a lot of discussion of like, how open are these looks? Are these good shots? Are they not good shots? To me, Derek White was getting the most open shots and open looks of anyone on the Celtics. So I was like, this guy is the one who has to hit shots. He hits a couple more threes in games 1 and game 2, and it's a completely different story that we're talking about. So he played much better than game 3. It's going to come down to the supporting cast, not just Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And I feel good about the Celtics winning tonight and also probably wrapping this series up. But I do think it still goes 7.
Interesting. I mean, as far as the overall points here, they were due for some positive shooting regression. There's no doubt about it that, like, this is who this team's been. I also thought Joe Mazzulla finally woke up and acted like a championship winning coach in game 3. The timeout usage, anytime that the Knicks started to have a little bit of life, just nipping that in the bud in a way that he just didn't in the 2 games, I thought was really important to that game here. The Porzingis thing, I think, is a legitimate concern to me from Boston's perspective. I don't know what's going on. No one seems to. He's obviously dealing with some sort of viral infection that's bothered him for a while. He just doesn't look like himself. And
he's been awful.
Yeah.
He's not even playing that much, but even when he's playing, he can't even make layups. Obviously, he's shooting like 10% from three, something around that. This is the worst I've ever seen him.
Yeah, it's honestly like frightening. Like, I think there's something like legitimately like wrong with him health wise because like the coloring of him, the way he's moving, he just doesn't look like Kristaps Porzingis, which is kind of a scary thought here. And to that same point, I think Father Time chasing down Al Horford a little bit for the first time, finally, as that dude's been doing it forever. He has not looked quite like himself. He still had a couple flashes, and I mean, he's gonna bring what he can bring to the table. But the bottom line here is, man, we've known this all along. The Boston Celtics are the better basketball team. There shouldn't have ever been a question about that, despite the people that have talked themselves into it. So I think the Celtics end up rolling again tonight. I do like the -6.5 in favor of them. I still think this is Boston in 6. I think that they win 4 straight here, 3 straight at this point. This Knicks team, midnight always comes, Sam Oshtry, that you can run from it. You can do whatever. You can't escape it, that the pumpkin is always going to show up there. So I think that's what we're in the process of currently.
Before the series, I said the key to the series for the Knicks to win was the Celtics would have to shoot 30% or worse from three, and there's going to have to be an injury or 2 in there, which Kristaps going out for stretches, maybe Jrue Holiday re-injures his hamstring, something like that. And both those two things came to fruition in game 1 and 2, where they shot less than 30% from three, and Kristaps left game 1 early with this illness, and then he just hasn't looked good. And I think that also hurts Al Horford. Like, Al Horford is old. He is not meant to play 25 to 30 minutes, even 30 plus minutes a night. Like that's just not who Al Horford is anymore. And why it's worked the last couple of seasons is because Kristaps was there. Obviously, Kristaps is their starting center. Al Horford comes off the bench, but Kristaps is there to carry that load at center for long stretches. Kristaps obviously can't play more than like 15 to 18 minutes right now because of this weird illness that he's got going on. So that also hurts Al Horford, and he looks tired. So look, the Knicks, what I had been impressed with, especially in games 1 and 2, when they came back from 2 20-point wins, was their physicality and toughness and just like grit that you didn't really see throughout the regular season. I was really of the mindset that they traded that toughness for talent when they got Karl-Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, those type of guys. You saw that, and I think the Detroit Pistons unlocked that in that first round series because of how physical that series was. The Knicks, the only way they were advancing was to match that physicality and match that defensive intensity. And I think you saw that translate and come over to the series against the Celtics. So I was impressed from that standpoint. The Celtics are the better team. I think the Knicks can win 1 of 4 games, I don't think they're going to get swept, or it's not swept, but obviously lose 4 straight to the Celtics. If it's an off night for the Celtics, whatever it is, Knicks offense, like we talk about the Celtics offense a lot, the Celtics defense has been really good and really hurting the Knicks offense, which has struggled going back to the Pistons series, but it certainly struggled for most of 3 quarters in games 1 and 2, and of course in game 3 when they got blown out. Here's the thing: who do you trust more? Who is the best player on the floor, and who do you trust the most? 5 minutes left in the game if it's a 5 to 10 point game.
So Jason Tatum has been bad. I can't run from that question here. I did want to, my only pushback there, by Knicks offense, you're referring to Jalen Brunson dribble the ball for 20 seconds while the other 4 guys stand around, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that's their offensive approach. It's
So,
it's not inaccurate.
but I mean, to your point, like I can understand the case that Jalen Brunson has been the best player in the series. The Tatum stuff is concerning as well. Like that game too, not only did he obviously like get stuffed at the buzzer and not even get a real shot off, or I guess he was trying to pass it at the end there. It was a mess of a possession as the bottom line. What was concerning to me about that specifically, for starters, he looked kind of just like stiff and uncomfortable in general. And then sort of the Jason Tatum shot is a step back 3, and he had the opportunity to get to it. And I don't know why. Like, I guess he drove past in the previous possession and gets the rim and had success there. But then he not only kind of attacked the rim, he just steered himself directly into Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. So, like, yes, great play by Bridges and OG, no doubt about it. Like, the Knicks do deserve credit for getting the stop there. But that was just an absolutely maddening and concerning possession from Tatum's perspective there.
And Mitchell Robinson, too. So what happened on that possession was they ran the same exact play, which is a high ball screen set right around half court. And how the Knicks, or how OG guarded it, was he picked up Jason Tatum right at half court. So the pickup point was so high. So Jason Tatum just explodes to the rim, and he gets obviously an easy dunk. Their pickup point was way lower. It was right around the 3-point line with OG Anunoby, and Mitchell Robinson had a great contain on that. So, like, when your pickup point is way lower, it was easier that. And so Jason Tatum, I guess, didn't think the Knicks would make that adjustment. So he thought he'd have an easy bucket or an easy drive to the rim. He didn't, obviously. And then Mikal comes over and gets the big stop. Jalen Brunson, the reason why I'm saying the Knicks still have a chance is because if this game is within 5 to 10 points, any game the remaining is within 5 to 10 points with 5 to 10 minutes, or 5 minutes to go, I trust Jalen Brunson. You could say their offense is a heliocentric approach where it just revolves around Jalen Brunson, and they're not really running pick and pops with Karl-Anthony Towns that effectively
At all.
in these playoffs. Yeah, really at all. When that was really their most successful play type throughout the regular season.
I think he's got 1 3-pointer in this series.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
It was in game 3. He only shot like 2 or 3 between games 1 and 2. So that's been kind of maddening, honestly, because like pick and pop is what they do really well, and they're not doing it at all. So I'd like to see more of that. But the point is that Jalen Brunson is like, you can have that heliocentric approach when the game is late, and it's just like you need a guy to get you a bucket. And Jalen Brunson is as clutch as it comes. He's just a different dude when the game is on the line. And compared to Jason Tatum, who we know can also falter down the stretch of games, I'm trusting the Knicks and Jalen Brunson if this game is tight. So that the only really way that I'm going to trust Boston is if they just blow the game out and the Knicks don't have another 20-point comeback in them, and it's not close down the stretch, doesn't even get to crunch time. If it gets to crunch time, I trust Jalen Brunson to deliver another win. So I think they get one more win, and then it goes to 7.
I think that's totally fair if it gets to that point. I just need the Celtics to step on the throat as soon as possible. And I think that was a clear focus in game 3. So I hope that is the case tonight. We will see how that shakes out. We'll touch briefly on the final game of the night, which is between the Golden State Warriors and Minnesota Timberwolves. A gutsy win by Minnesota in game 3. I thought that Golden State sort of brought their best punch there. I will bring up the Jimmy Butler not performing like a Jalen Brunson type. That has kind of been his reputation through the years. They get me to crunch time and I'll take over. And he did not score a bucket in the final 8 minutes of that game. Any takeaways on that specific matchup? And do you think this is over without Steph Curry having a chance until at least game 6?
Yeah, this series is beyond over. It's more over to me than the Cavs Pacers is. And it's because even if Steph Curry does come back, what does Steph Curry do better than anyone? It's move off the ball, and he's just constantly moving. A hamstring injury will inhibit that movement. Like, even if Curry comes back for game 6, and the series might be over by then, but even if he does come back for game 6, he's not going to be able to move as effectively off the ball. Like what he is for this offense, forget what he is when he has the ball in his hands. It's what he is, his gravity as a
Yeah.
screener, coming off screens, all that stuff. And it's just he's constantly moving without the ball. Like I think he ran almost 2 miles in that game 7 against the Rockets. That is a lot of movement throughout a basketball game that you don't see from a lot of players. That will be gone with a hamstring injury, even if he's healthy enough to play, where it's obviously not going to be 100%. So I don't think the Warriors have a chance. You see what this offense is without Steph Curry. Like it's the whole thing to me was this Warriors defense has been great. They're not going to break 100. That's what I said the second Steph Curry went out, and they haven't broke 100. Like they can't break 100 points. It doesn't matter how good your defense is, and their defense has been really good at limiting the Wolves, who half-court offense struggles in of itself. But if you can't score, it doesn't matter, and they can't score. And Jimmy Butler was great. You're right until the last 8 minutes or so of the game, 33 points. They don't have enough shooting around them. Brandon Podziemski has to step up. I believe he was 1 for 10 from the field that game. You can't even play Moses Moody in this contest. And can we have a conversation about Jonathan Kuminga? I am so impressed by this guy.
I don't know what to say about Jonathan Kuminga, man. I mean, like, so I like Kuminga coming out of, he was a G League Ignite guy. So seeing that like lone year there, and he was a guy like I bought into. He's bothered me from the perspective of like, he very clearly has refused to buy into this Warrior system. Like, and he's not like a Warrior.
It's not his play style. That's the problem.
Sure. But this is like a two-way street here, I think. Steve Kerr has absolutely handled him wrong. I'm not arguing that whatsoever. I think it's pretty indefensible, like some of the lack of opportunities. He was a DNP in 4 of the past year. I think he was in 3 of them and played 7 minutes and won the game. Regardless, the point being, like, he's not a regular rotation guy. The other part that's frustrating is when he gets this opportunity, like you very clearly see it in his brain of like, I'm proving myself. Like, I'm going to make sure I look like the best player on the floor when like,
well, he should because he's about to get paid this summer. So it's an audition every time he's on the floor.
So if you're an NBA team right now, what are you comfortable paying Jonathan Kuminga?
So I really like Jonathan Kuminga. I always have. I just think he's an athletic specimen. And I think if he developed a shot, he would be like an all-star level player. And he just has never developed a shot. And that's why he hasn't fit in Steve Kerr's system, because he's not a guy that is.
But Gary Payton can't shoot. Like there's guys that make it work.
You're right, but Gary Payton is such a great on-ball defender that it makes up for it. And
why can't Kuminga be?
I'm not saying he can't be. He should be. Like based on his profile and his size and athleticism, he should be a better defender, honestly. But he's not for whatever reason. But Gary Payton also, like, he is a 3-and-D prototype where he can just kind of like hang out in the corner, and if Curry, when the gravity of the defense draws into Curry, he can get open looks from that. Jonathan Kuminga isn't that type of guy. Like, he's more of like a downhill driver slasher type. And it's just for whatever reason, Steve Kerr is not a fan of his. He hasn't bought into the Warriors system. I don't think the Warriors system is right for him. You're right that it's a two-way street, and this divorce is obviously coming. But it's just funny that I'm impressed by him because Steve Kerr wants nothing to do with him. Like, Steve Kerr, if it was up to Kerr, he would never play. But when you have all these injuries, like Jimmy Butler last series, where it's just why he played a little bit, and then Steph Curry goes down, you need offense generated from somewhere. And even if it's not the exact play style you want, Jonathan Kuminga can have nights where he explodes for 30 points. And that's what's so impressive, that he's just stay ready guy. And I think he's gonna get paid this summer. Like, he's gonna get, I don't know, 20 million. Like,
I think could see more than that.
Yeah, maybe more than that. So I'm a fan of his, and I've been impressed how he just stays ready despite his organization giving up on him, and he's still stepping up in these situations. But it doesn't really matter because the Warriors offense can't score. Like I said, they benched Moses Moody because he's a great defender, but he can't shoot. Gary Payton can't shoot. Jimmy Butler was great, but he can't do it all. And in the fourth quarter, he looked like an old, tired guy who's past his prime. So this series is over for me if they can't break 100.
Yeah, I would have given them a puncher's chance if they were able to dig out and find a win in game 3 and just keep that hope that you can get Steph back. But I think losing that one was sort of the nail in the coffin there. And just for the record here, for what a just well-perceived organization the Golden State Warriors have been under Bob Myers' tenure, whole lot of draft misses, man. Like, you run down the list of the James Wisemans, the Moses Moody's, like, none of those guys have quite filled the shoes that they've needed them to for this window to continue being extended here.
Two timelines.
Yeah, the Wiseman one's really the one that you can't, like, that sunk the ship.
But again, like, that team was still competing for championships at the time, which is why I defend the Wiseman pick a little bit. Because number one, that team was still competing for championships. they needed a center. Like if they got a ready now center, which obviously Wiseman wasn't that, but they were hoping that he would be and could be part of the future. If you get a ready now center for that, and they won a championship anyway, but that was a missing piece to compete for championships again. So I get them taking that approach when obviously there was better guys, way better guys who went beyond Wiseman. Also, that was COVID year, I believe. It was 2020. So like the draft process and the evaluation period was very different.
James Wiseman was just never good at basketball, though. Like he never was. He played he played, I think, 8 games in college. He played less than 20 his senior year of high school. Like there was less than a 30-game sample size of this guy. I get it. You could see the raw skills, the size, all that thing. But I mean, we see, where's James Wiseman at these days? I'm not even exactly sure.
I don't even know he's in the league.
Yeah, yeah. So regardless, though, do want to touch on Giannis real quick before we do a live spin to wrap up here. We did get a report from Shams Charania today that for the first time in his career, Giannis Antetokounmpo seems open to the idea of pursuing opportunities outside Milwaukee, or at least opening that door a little bit there. To me, it's pretty clear the writing is on the wall that means this dude will inevitably be traded. I do think that this is sort of a mutual breakup where it makes sense for both sides. They got their championship. Giannis did give his all to that franchise. He should not be looked at downly by Milwaukee fans in any sort of way. But any takeaways from this report dropping today?
Real quick, to give James Wiseman his justice, he is on the Pacers, and I actually forgot this, but he tore his Achilles the very first game of the season this year.
Damn, shout out. Hate to hear that.
Yes, obviously, but so he's on the Pacers, and we'll see where he goes from there.
Get a ring, maybe.
Yeah, very unlikely. Giannis conversation. So this was always inevitable. This report to me is just how these processes go, where Shams gets the scoop a little bit. Teams have been calling. Teams know he's becoming available. Oh, yeah. The next report will be that they're mutually agreeing. It's not going to be a trade request. It'll be that they're mutually agreeing to go their separate ways. They're going to look for ways to move on because he's such a value member of the franchise, and the Bucks are going a different direction. Blah blah blah. Bunch of PR spin. The Giannis trade is coming. Everybody knows it. This is just the first step. The league knows it. 29 teams who would love to get Giannis know it. There are a couple teams, and the Thunder, depending on how the series plays out, are an intriguing team because they have, along with the Rockets, a war chest of assets, and that includes young players and draft picks. Because how the Bucks are going to approach this in terms of the hold they're going to get back is the Bucks don't control any of their first round picks until it's either 2030 or 2031. I believe it's 2031. Yeah. So the Bucks don't control any of their first round picks. So yeah, they want picks, but they can't necessarily go on a full rebuild because they don't control the picks. So even if they're one of the worst teams in the league, they're not going to have their picks. And there are pathways to get their picks back, but not really easy. So yeah, they want picks from other teams that they know are going to be bad. Like the Rockets have some of those Suns picks. And if the Suns blow it up, the Suns could be pretty bad. So there's a lot of pathways to get Giannis, but the team is going to have young players to give the Bucks back because they're going to want good young players. And we know the Rockets package of, I don't know exactly what it would look like, but we know that they have Terry Easton that's available.
Jalen Green.
Sengun could be available. Jalen Green, of course, who knows if the Bucks are interested in him after his playoff performance. But there's guys like Cam Whitmore who are out of the rotation. Reed Shepherd, number 3 pick, who didn't play at all pretty much this year, except in the G League, who I still think is going to be a great player in the NBA. So they have so many young players, along with the Thunder, with like Aaron Wiggins, some of these other guys, and picks. So those are the really 2 teams that I see are the most likely destinations for Giannis, and it'll be interesting to see how this negotiation plays out.
Yeah, definitely. A couple other names I'll throw in the mix: Orlando Magic, Toronto Raptors, and I know the Brooklyn Nets have been pretty open on circling to the point where like ticket vendors are floating that out there. But
like they have nothing to give up except picks. But like I'm talking about the Bucks want young players, and it's not only that. If they're going to agree to a destination for Giannis, why would he want to go to the Milwaukee? You have to bring another star with you, and then you have to build out a roster. Like they have nothing to offer Giannis. They're going to be a bad, not a bad team, but like a bad playoff team in the East. So why would he want to go there?
Yeah, I mean, fair. We'll see. The other point I'll add on it, I don't think it is coincidental whatsoever that this dropped on the day of the NBA draft lottery. I think that is a pretty calculated move by all parties involved there. And we'll see ultimately how that shakes out. How the lottery unfolds today could certainly have an impact on this. And who knows, maybe that the Milwaukee's trying to swing a we'll trade Giannis for the 1 pick type move, depending on who gets that. Now, if it is the Sixers, I'm out. Keep me on the Cooper flag train. No doubt about that there. But who knows? Every team is
what team should trade the number 1 pick for Giannis?
I would take Cooper Flag over Giannis just from the age and who it's going to be. Pretty much from all teams there would be my position there.
What about the Spurs? Like
Interesting.
I think Cooper Flag's a great fit with them, but if Giannis and Antetokounmpo joined forces, they would literally be impossible to score at the rim on those guys.
Fair. I can see the case. I guess my pushback would be: do you think there's a world where Cooper Flag ends up a better NBA player than Giannis? Because I do.
I don't.
You
And
don't.
I love, dude, I love Cooper Flag. We're talking about a 2-time MVP, an NBA champion, NBA Finals MVP. If he has Giannis's career, I mean that is the absolute peak ceiling. I love Cooper Flag. I think he's an All NBA guy. But Giannis is a 2-time MVP.
Sure. Yeah, Giannis is awesome, but I think Cooper Flag is pretty awesome too. So we'll see. We'll bookmark that one a little bit, see how the chips fall. And speaking of, why don't we run a little simulation ourselves to wrap things up here? So shout out to tankathon.com, which is a website that I've frequented quite a bit over the years throughout the Sixers tenure. We have 9 hours and 4 minutes until the lottery at the time of me and Sam recording this here. We're going to do one spin to wrap things up. You ready for the Sam Oshtry?
Yeah, there was actually real quick. There's a good article. I think it was the Inquirer or something. Or I forget who, but someone said, or they talked to the Tankathon owner, and they pretty much talked about how all their business over the last decade has come from the Philadelphia region.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me whatsoever. So let's give this one go. So depending on how this goes is whether how I'm committed to this. To me, a win is keeping the pick, but let's hit one sim to see how things go tonight. And we hit it. It's spinning. And the Sixers, the 6th pick that is still keeping the draft pick. Just kept it there. So once again, it has to fall within the top 6 for it to be there. To me, the win is just keeping the draft pick. Obviously, the number 1 pick is ideal, but if you have a chance to add a top 6 talent, you can sign me up for that 10 times out of 10. Any final words on the NBA draft lottery or anything else before we sign off, Sam?
I just want to say that I don't know if we're going beyond Cooper Flag, who you'd be interested in, but Edgecom, I've been watching some of his tape.
VJ.
He's awesome, and I think he'd be a great fit for the Sixers. Just this pure athleticism. He flies in for offensive rebounds. He can hit threes, a floor spacer. Defensively, he's good. I'm really all in on this guy, and I think especially for a fit like the Sixers, where he's not going to be a star or anything, but he'll have an immediate impact. So I don't know if that lands at 3 or 4, maybe beyond Cooper Flag, where they'd go. I think Dylan Harper would probably number 2 regardless, because he's just going to be number 2 on everyone's board. But I like Edgecom. I don't know who you're interested in, but that's my guy.
Yeah, I still own some Ace Bailey stock, and I'm a believer there. I am a VJ Edgecombe guy as well, and I've kind of been pumping those up, specifically to Mark Henry Jr., who's a bit of a skeptic there. He moves like Anthony Edwards, man. Like the way that his athletic pop is and all that. I wish he was a tad bigger and a little bit more polished as like a shooter or offensive talent there, but the raw athleticism there, you can sign me up for VJ. I like Malawak as well. There's a lot. So we'll have a more calculated approach in how we're addressing this draft after tonight. We will see what happens from there. But appreciate each one of you guys for tuning us to here on Fox Sports The Gambler. Plenty more coming on the other side from Sean Brace on the Daily Ticket. So make sure to keep it locked on your dial here. Me and Sam will be back. Talk with you next time. Peace.